Hi, so my name is Paul Brocklehurst, and I'm going to be giving you a short overview of clinical trials and direct you to resources that are available on the internet. Trials sort of sit very much on the right-hand sort of side of all the study designs that we can do in health services research, and it's very much about establishing causality rather than association. So in a nutshell, trialists adopt a positive approach to evaluation. So here the idea is basically to create two identical sort of systems into which a new component is introduced. Observations are then made of the outcome differences between those two conditions, and that's what we measure. And then other factors that could influence the outcome, they're known as confounders. They're taken account of either before the study randomizes with something called stratification, so that's a priori, or they're taken account of after the end when the statistical analysis has been done, and that's post hoc with something like regression, where these confounders are added as sort of covariates. This all improves the internal validity of trial conduct. The effect is often then sort of pooled using meta-analyses in secondary research, and this then leads to evidence-based policies for clinical practice. So here we sort of see a sort of diagram of the experimental paradigm which we would use in a trial. So at the start, you'll see there that we randomise at the baseline, and at that baseline we also collect data in those two groups. We then introduce the intervention to both of those, to the group in question, so the intervention arm, and we then collect the outcomes at the end. And then we basically commonly look at the difference in the difference of those scores, so the difference between baseline and outcome in the intervention group compared to the difference between the baseline and outcome in the control group. And it's that difference in difference over this sort of time period which we then enables us to establish causality. And you'll see the direction of time there moving from left to right. Now, trials are subject to a legal sort of framework. The NIHR, which is the National Institute of Health Research, is the biggest health services research funder in England and Wales. And basically, they see CTUs, clinical trial units, as an important component of any research application and funded sort of project. So they are very much looking for PIs and CIs to be putting in applications that have clinical trials associated with them, clinical trial units associated with them. If we're talking about CTIMPs, so clinical trials of investigative medicinal products, then we've also got an EU CT directive as well, which we have to work to. So there's elements within CTIMP trials where we have to expand on the quality assurance elements and making sure that we are delivering to the legal framework, which you'll sort of see at the bottom of that point there. A couple of useful references just generally on the web. There's a toolkit which is produced by the NIHR, that's the top URL, and you'll see the picture there. There's also a short YouTube video which is quite informative. That's available, and a couple of papers which basically give you a rough idea of what trials are about. A very helpful one there is that link at the very bottom there. That's a paediatrician's guide to clinical trial design. What's NWORTH? Well, I'm the director of the unit. It's a UKCRC registered clinical trials unit. That means it goes through a validation sort of process, and we're number 23. There's a fair number now across the UK. We're part funded by the Welsh Government, and that also includes the Research, Design and Conduct Service. So that's a particular part of the CTU which is there to help clinicians work up their ideas for applications into either NIHR or indeed the Health and Care Research Wales research grant portfolio. We've got roughly 24 active studies on the portfolio at the moment, worth about 18 million, so we're very, very active. We particularly sort of specialise in complex interventions. Bangor University has an international reputation in implementation sort of science. That's becoming a really hot topic in trials, and so we're linking in with those and driving forward the methodological agenda there. And we oversee trials across the UK, so it's not just in North Wales. We're delivering trials in London, up in the northeast, in South Wales too. That's our contact number at the very, very bottom there, and you'll see a range of things to help you navigate around the website. So in essence, what we're here to do for clinicians is help them design, plan and run trials. And you'll see here there's lots of different sort of stages. It's a very iterative approach. When you put in an application, it can be quite complicated, particularly if it's a CTIMP. So you start effectively with your research question on the top left there. Also, as you do that, you're wanting to involve patients and the public. That's another key area which you'll see that there's a fact sheet and a presentation about that later. You then need to think about what outcome measures you're going to be using and how that relates to your research question, and we'll look at that in a short while. Then linking with the NHS infrastructure, NHS R&D, to help host your sort of study, and then also linking with any regulatory authorities like the MHRA if it's a CTIMP. So the most important thing, and one thing that you can really help the clinical trials unit with, is thinking about your question, so that when you come along to the Research Design Conduct Service, you've given some thought about these 4 key elements. So first of all, a statistician will want to know what your population is, and the best way of thinking about that is how you describe that population to a third person. So the who, what, and where is the study being undertaken. And this links to the eligibility criteria in your trial. The next big question is the intervention. So what are you going to do? What is the health technology that you are testing? Commonly, you're testing something against no treatment, but equally you can do something called a head-to-head, where you're testing a new health technology against an existing health technology. And that's all fine, and we deal with both types of those trials. Control, well, that's basically what you're comparing the intervention to. As I say, that can be no treatment or head-to-head. And the outcome, which is probably the most important from a statistical point of view, is how do you intend to show the effect you want to show? So that might be using a continuous variable. It might be dichotomous, sort of on-off, yes, no, above, below a threshold. It might be something relating to frequency. One of the key things we also want to know is time to expression. How long do you expect that intervention to actually sort of show itself, manifest itself? So all these things we take into account when we do the sample size, when we help you with the application. The reason why those 4 elements are really important is they're all interdependent. So you change one and actually you could affect the other. But if you've got a general idea of what those 4 elements are and bring them along to the Research Design Conduct Service, that would be a really good start to take your project sort of further. So what's on the website available to help you? Well, we have quite a number of fact sheets. One on PICO, which was the previous sort of slide, a bit more about sort of trial design, randomization, why is it important, what do we do, how do you do it, sample size and analysis of trials. So, and there's probably, there's actually a few more than that. So plenty for you to sort of read up first as part of the process of developing your research question. We also have some presentations, a basic one on research designs, the type of designs that are common in health services research. And we've also got a separate presentation on patient and public involvement. And that's particularly important these days. The NIHR take that very, very seriously. So very much worthwhile you looking at that as well. So finally, for further information, if your study qualifies for research, you may be entitled to some assistance in working up your study protocol. So the first contact is BCOHB R&D to notify them. And then secondly, to contact the Research Design and Conduct Service at NWORTH. There's the email address there. We also have a URL at the bottom which will take you to the RDCS element of the NWORTH website. There's a point of contact form to complete there. Now we have a charter relating to what's available and what type of research we will support. So have a look at that. That's on that URL at the bottom there as well. Okay, well thank you. I hope you enjoyed that presentation and we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.